You can allow it to define you and continue to beat you down, or you can look at it as a blessing and a turning point and turn it into a different future. And I think it takes a dreamer with vision that has incredible work ethic, that has the ability to move and flow as things evolve and change. The whole thing from complete meltdown to breaking all of the purposes and whys down to the realization, the rebirth, and getting back on and going. And it can happen that quick. We're moments away every day from a decision that's going to completely change our life. Every single moment of every single day has a massive impact on where you ultimately end up. And so that was a huge turning point, but it was all the decisions before and after that led to that moment. If the journey you're on is big enough, and it's going to have enough impact and change your life and other people's lives, one reason's not going to be big enough. And you need to put a lot of thought and a lot of preparation and a lot of meditation into all of the reasons why. Because at some point in time, you're going to need to gather all those little bad boys up and intently focus on it to have enough courage to get back up and do 20 more Ironmans after everything that we went through. Here's what a lot of people don't know about the journey because they just see the headline. Leading up to a massive shift in our lives, you know, I was middle America, owned my own mortgage company. I immigrated from another country and I was gonna live the American dream. I was gonna be a business owner and I had the future in my hands. Well, if you follow US economics at all, in 2008, the mortgage sector got hit the hardest and we lost everything. We fought and fought and fought and they just continued to take and take and take until they took it all. And again, it's one of those moments where you can allow it to define you and continue to beat you down, or you can look at it as a blessing and a turning point and turn it into a different future. And for me, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Wow. To hit that rock bottom, because I would have never made the shift that we did, and I would probably still be miserable today riding loans. And it wasn't me, it wasn't who I am authentically. And once this happened and they stripped us away of everything, my wife and I sat down as a family and we talked about what do we want to do? What direction can we take? What are our passions and how can we evolve and do something together? And we started to plot all of this out. And you know, we were heavily criticized for the decisions we were making early on, but because people couldn't see the big picture. They couldn't see what we knew in our minds as far as where we were going. And like I said, it took a decade. But now looking back on it, it was just a decade. And we have the rest of our lives now to go have an impact and hopefully change a generation. I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams thought I'd be sitting somewhere like here, talking to you. I am currently booked in 40 countries to speak in the next 12 months. I am very easygoing, and I had an upbringing where my mother is a dreamer, and she's never been able to figure out how to turn the dreams into something tangible or profitable. And then my dad is a blue-collar firefighter. You work 40 years, you get a pension, and you take no risks. And I didn't love either of those paths. My personality to bring into that mix is a very calm and easygoing person that just goes with the flow. And I think it takes a dreamer with vision that has incredible work ethic, that has the ability to move and flow as things evolve and change. And to me, that is almost the perfect storm to achieve something that everybody has said impossible, because you have to be calm. You have to not listen to all of the chatter and the noise. You have to be able to block that out. You have to have extreme vision, and then nothing happens without that work ethic that I learned from my dad. And so that all of those things together is what allowed me to conceptualize and be calm in those moments, because I took all of these beautiful things that I'd learned in my upbringing and applied it towards this. Yeah, I think for me it was the moment that I realized that I needed to stop listening to everybody else. We're surrounded today by people being satisfied with mediocre. And for me, as soon as I realized that I could believe in myself, and I had a supporting crew beside me and around me, that it opened up a lot of the doors. And the moment I used someone else's standard of excellence, that was just enough to get me moving. And then you need to put that person aside or look past that person and create or do you. Create your own lane. So for me, once I stopped looking at what everybody else was doing and then truly believed in what I could do, that, combining it with all those character traits that I talked about before, that's when human potential is truly can be found and experienced. I think just over a long period of time. Again, it's that whole mental aspect of sharpening that tool and putting yourself in situations where you can learn and grow. Success builds success and confidence builds confidence. And just over time, as I started to do things, I was becoming successful at them. And I was doing a lot of little things consistently over a long period of time. And that's what allowed me to build the confidence to take on the next. And so it was learned. It was learned by doing and taking massive amounts of action. You have to immediately act and go after it. Yeah. And that's one thing I'm really big on is if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And that's just the example I try to set now. And I also believe that kids are a product of our environments. And if you want your kids to be excellent, you have to be excellent yourself. And so that was one of the things when I'm laying on the side of the road at 30 with 20 Ironmans to go, I said, I told my kids I would do this. And what type of example would I be setting if 30 would have been okay? Now, it would have been world setting, but I would have been the guy that said he was going to do 50 that did 30, and it would have been considered a failure. And so it was really, really important to me to do what I said I was going to do at whatever it took to do that. And I think that's a very valuable lesson for kids to see and to learn is you set any goal you want, dream, vision, whatever. You do the work it takes to get there. And then once you start executing, you see that through. Yeah, it's just a legacy that I want to leave for my kids. What I've learned kind of looking back at what I've done is they're just milestones. I've crossed a lot of finish lines. I get the question, what's next, a lot. And what's next doesn't have to be in the same physical or mental category. And for me, what's next is this opportunity. We've written a book, and I get to go around and I get to speak. And the only thing I'm trying to do is to get people to open their minds as to what is possible. We're living in a day and age where we're limiting what we think is possible. We're getting in our own way. The thing that I want to get people to do, and you've probably heard somebody say it before, but motion creates emotion. The hardest thing to do is start moving, engaging. Once you start to move and engage, you realize two things. One, it's not as scary as you thought it was. And two, you actually start enjoying what you're doing. The only thing that was scaring you was the first action. Dude, I'm just like every ordinary dude that's out there. I just have learned to put myself in the game. I've learned to show up every single day. The moment you realize the next step isn't going to kill you, and that next step is the first step to evolving, changing, growing, and learning, and becoming literally the best version of yourself, that's the most beautiful thing. It's not going to kill you. And putting yourself in the game, you're giving yourself an opportunity to achieve something that everybody else said was impossible.